murder of the Gilgo Beach victims. Maureen Bernard Barnes, 25. Melissa Barthelemy, 24. Megan Waterman, 22. Amberlynn Costello, 27. Valerie Mack, 24. Melissa Taylor, 24. Jessica Taylor, 20. And Karen Vergata, 34. And 4 more has been discovered but has not yet been identified. The Gilgo Beach murder has been garnishing a tremendous amount of attention around the world lately, especially here in America. However, the Gilgo Beach murder has been a source of headache for police for almost 2 decades now as they sought out for the killer. Now that a killer has finally been identified, police can begin putting the missing pieces of the puzzle together in order to bring justice to the family of the deceased victim. The first human remains connected to the Gilgo Beach murder was found on April 20th, 1996. A pair of severe legs wrapped in a plastic are discovered on Fire Island. The woman is referred to as Fire Island Jane Doe. Her remains are the first indication that something sinister was happening on Long Island. On November 2000, partial remains of a woman are found in Manorville, Long Island. This woman is referred to as Manorville Jane Doe by investigators. July 2003, partial remains of a woman are found in Mandeville in the same location. Remains were discovered 3 years prior. On July 9th, 2007, Maureen Bernard Barnes, 25, is seen alive for the last time. She was living in Connecticut and working as a sex worker. She would often travel to Manhattan to meet clients, as she did the week she went missing. July 12, 2009, Melissa Barthelemy, 24, of the Bronx disappeared. She worked as a sex worker. The night she disappeared, she told a friend she was visiting a client. After her disappearance, her family received several phone calls from her cell phone in New York City. They said on the other end of the taunting phone call was the voice of a man. May 1st, 2010, Shannon Gilbert, 24, of Jersey City, disappeared. She disappeared after visiting the home of Joseph Brewer in Oak Beach. Detectives said the Brewer was not a suspect in the investigation. Gilbert called 911 before she disappeared. On June 6, 2010, Megan Waterman, 22, from Maine, is seen alive for the last time at the Hotel Inn Express in Hauppauge, New York. She was a sex worker and had a 3-year-old daughter. September 2nd, 2010, Amberlynn Costello, 27, disappeared. She lived in West Bayland, New York. She was last seen leaving her residence to meet a client. At the time of her disappearance, she did not have a cell phone on her. Costello was never reported missing. December 11, 2010, as Kentane teams are searching for Shannon Gilbert, they discover the skeletonized remains of Melissa Barthelemy. Her remains were not identified for another month. She was wrapped in a burlap in the thick bush on Gilgo Beach. The beach they found her on was covered in snow. December 13, 2010, investigators returned to the area where they discovered the first body and found 3 more badly decomposed bodies wrapped in burlap. They were searching in punishing weather conditions late in the night. They said there were no obvious sign of trauma to the bodies and that at least 2 of the bodies belonged to a woman. December 14, 2010, for the first time, authorities say the murders were potentially the work of a serial killer. January 19, 2011, investigators identified 22-year-old Megan Waterman as one of the bodies found on Gilgo Beach. She was the first of what would become known as the Gilgo 4 to be identified. January 14, 2011, Suffolk County Police identified the 3 other bodies found in December 2010 as Melissa Barthelemy, Amberlynn Costello, and Maureen Bernard Barnes. March 29, 2011, in another attempt to find Shannon Gilbert, a 5th body is found along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach and Oak Beach. The remains were recovered less than a mile from where the Gilgo 4 were discovered. March 31, 2011, investigators are still unable to identify the 5th body, but they confirm the remains belong to a woman. They say the body does not belong to Gilbert. On April 4, 2011, police found 3 more victims in the area between Oak Beach and Gilgo Beach, bringing the total counts of victims to 8. Investigators identified the victims as Jane Doe number 6, a baby girl, and an Asian man. The baby was found wrapped in a blanket and between 18 and 24 months old when she died. Investigators say they were unsure if she was murdered. They believe the man was in his late teens or early 20s when he died. Although a cause of death was not revealed, police say he died a violent death. He was found wearing what investigators refer to as woman clothing. On April 11, 2011, for the first time, investigators expand their search in Nassau County, and a 9th and 10th victims are discovered. Their bodies were found on Ocean Parkway in Jones Beach, about 5 miles from where the Gilgo 4 were found. Police say they have several people they consider as persons of interest, but no suspect had been named. The 9th victim, Jane Doe number 9, is discovered to be Fire Island's Jane Doe, whose legs were found in 1996. Due to DNA testing, it was also believed that she was the mother of the unidentified baby found on Gilgo Beach. Fire Island Jane Doe number 9, is renamed Peaches because of a tattoo found on her body. Investigators say they believe mom and baby were killed at the same time. May 9, 2011, investigators say the first and 6th bodies that were found were dismembered. Unlike the Gilgo 4, only the head and hands of the woman were found on Gilgo Beach. The rest of their bodies had been found 20 years earlier, 40 miles away in Manorville. One of the dismembered women, Jane Doe number 5, is named as 20-year-old Jessica Taylor. Taylor disappeared in 2003. She was working as a sex worker in New York City. The other woman remains unidentified, but investigators believe there's 2 cases are linked. The partial remains of Jane Doe number 6 are connected to Manderville Jane Doe, whose torso was found in Manderville in 2000. Investigators now say they believe they are looking for 3, if not 4, killers. 1 killer who they believe is responsible for the Gilgo 4, 1 responsible for Jane Doe number 5 and Jane Doe number 6, and 1 or 2 separate killers responsible for the 4 other bodies found. Investigators found 10 bodies and identified 5 of them, but they are still searching for Gilbert. November 29, 2011, Suffolk County Police say they believe all of the 10 victims found and near Gilgo Beach may have been related to sex workers, even though only 5 of the 10 were identified. They say it is possible that 1 killer is responsible for all of their deaths. Even though her disappearance sparked the investigation, investigators say they do not believe Gilbert's case is connected. On December 11, 2011, after a year and a half of searching, investigators found Shannon Gilbert. Investigators found a cell phone, lip gloss, shoes, and pocketbook they say belonged to Shannon Gilbert on Gilgo Beach. They say they do not believe her death is related to the 10 bodies they found in the area over the last several months. December 13, 2011, 19 months after she vanished, Suffolk County Police found the skeleton remains of Shannon Gilbert on Gilgo Beach. Investigators believe her case of death was accidental drowning. December 10, 2015, after an ex-Suffolk County Police chief is charged in an unrelated investigation and personal changes are made within the department, the FBI officially joined the investigation in the Gilgo Beach murders. Their addition comes almost exactly 5 years after the first of the 4, Gilgo 4, was found. July 23, 2016, Shannon Gilbert's mother, who is credited for the discovery of the Gilgo bodies because of how she pushed for her daughter's search, is found stabbed to death in her apartment. Marty Gilbert was 52 years old. Her daughter, Sarah Elizabeth Gilbert, was charged in her death. January 16, 2020, police released photos of a belt imprint with the letter HM or MH to the public. The belt was found at one of the crime scenes near Gilgo Beach, police say. They believe the belt was handled by the suspect. May 22, 2020, Jane Doe number 6, Manorville Jane Doe, is identified as Valerie Mack, a 24-year-old sex worker from Philadelphia. She was last seen in the spring of 2000 near Atlantic City, and months later her partial remains were found in Manorville. 11 years later, the rest of her remains were discovered at Gilgo Beach. Mack had never been officially reported as a missing person. Investigators were able to identify Mack after being given the green light to use genetic genealogy to identify remains. February 15, 2022, after less than a year on the job, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison announced a new task force to investigate the Gilgo Beach murders, bringing in investigators from the state, county, and FBI together for the first time. May 9, 2022, Suffolk County Police released a 22-minute 911 phone call from Gilbert the night she disappeared in 2010. After over a decade with no suspect, on July 13, 2003, an arrest is made. 59-year-old Rex Herman, a Manhattan-based architect, was arrested and named as the Gilgo Beach serial killer. Herman was charged in the death of Megan Waterman, Amberlynn Costello, and Melissa Bartholomew. Investigators also named him as the prime suspect in the death of Maureen Brainard Baines. On August 4, 2023, authorities identified Jane Doe number 7, whose remains were found on Fire Island in 1996 as 34-year-old Karen Vergata. The remains were later linked by DNA to another human remain found along Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach in 2011. Herman was married for almost 30 years to his wife at the time that he was arrested. He had 2 children, a 33-year-old son and a 26-year-old daughter who also worked at his architect firm in Manhattan. He has pleaded not guilty to the murders. However, the FBI and the local police have been tracking him down for almost 3 years, and they finally got a sample of his DNA through a trash can that belonged to him and was able to link him to the crimes. I am so grateful and happy for the victim's family that after years and decades of not knowing what really happened to their loved one, that their killer is finally being brought to justice for the horrible and despicable thing that he has done to them. May their soul finally rest in peace after all these years, knowing that he has been brought to justice. Until next time on the Meaningful Talk Crime Doc, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you guys later in the comment section.